Hello and welcome. I am the Scraptastic Crocheter. My name is Amanda, and today I want to show you the basics of crocheting. I have here a piece of yarn, a yarn ball, and this is a wool yarn, and any yarn really will work for crocheting. You can use wool, you can use acrylic, you can use cotton. I'm gonna use this wool because this is it looks like it's just one strand, and I figured this is gonna be easy for you to see the stitches on this background here. I have a crochet hook. It's aluminum crochet hook. There's also wooden and steel and resin, plastic. There's a bunch of different crochet hooks, but I like metal crochet hooks. There's always different sizes on crochet hooks. It shows a US size, G6 and 4mm. This can also be very different from crochet hook to crochet hook, depending on the brand, how they choose to label their crochet hooks, and also the sizing may vary depending on where you are in the world. Usually you can find recommendation on what yarn size or what crochet hook is recommended for the type of yarn that you're choosing. Different yarn labels can show. I can show you here. I have this cotton yarn here. It says 2.5 to 3mm crochet hook. So usually there's recommendations on the yarn. Also for knitting if you're interested in that. But today I'm just going with this. And how do you start? Well, you start by making a loop on the yarn. You can do that by just looping the yarn over your finger. And I usually loosen it up a little bit, and then I push the yarn through the hole that I created, and I pull so that I get a loop like this, and I insert my crochet hook into that loop. So I have a bit of a yarn tail on one side, and then I hold my yarn. I like to hold it like this, and I usually pinch it a little bit in my hand with the last two fingers, or mostly my pinky finger, and then I hold it over my pointer finger like this. That's usually how I hold it. I do hold my crochet hook also like a pencil, but you can hold it as a knife. There's different techniques on this, but I'm holding it like this. That's my preferred way of holding it. I'm just gonna tighten up this loop a little bit and show you now what the next step is. So you hold your yarn, and then I like to pinch the yarn tail just so that I have everything secured in my hand. Now I'm gonna yarn over my hook so that I can catch the yarn with the hook, and I'm gonna pull it through the loop like this. See, you get a loop. And then I'm gonna do the same again. I'm just gonna yarn over and pull through. Yarn over and pull through. Yarn over and pull it through the loop on the hook. Yarn over, pull through. Yarn over, pull through. Yarn over, pull through. Now I have a starting chain. This chain is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 loops. The loop on the hook doesn't count for anything, but I have 7 loops here on my chain and then the loop on my hook. I'm gonna make a chain here so that I have 10 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, that's my starting 10. Remember, I have 10. I'm not gonna do any extra stitches other than my 10, just to show what happens with the stitch count. So 10 is what I have, and to turn and continue from here, I'm now going to insert my hook in this second loop. You see that there's one almost like a V next to the loop on the hook, and then there's the second V. And into the second V is where I'm gonna put my crochet hook, and I'm gonna yarn over and pull through 1, and then I'm gonna yarn over and pull through 2. Now I've created a new V here, and I can mark that V with a stitch marker just to make it easier. And I do recommend using stitch markers when you're starting to learn. If you have some, you can also use a strand of yarn, but it's easy to accidentally lose a stitch or increase in the turns on the edges if you're not really sure what you're looking at. So I've just marked that stitch, and you can see here that here is where my stitch is in this. That's where I did this single crochet. So now I'm gonna insert my hook in the next stitch. I'm gonna yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2, and there I created another V on top. So I'm gonna insert my hook in the next stitch, yarn over, pull through 1, and then yarn over and pull through 2 loops. Insert my hook in the next stitch, yarn over, pull through 1, and yarn over and pull through both loops on my hook. See, I'm getting the V's there, just like I have the V's here in the beginning chain, but now they're here on top. So I'm inserting, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2. Next stitch, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2. Next stitch, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2. Next stitch, yarn over 1, yarn over and 2. And the last stitch, yarn over and 1, and yarn over and the 2 loops. So if we're now counting the V's on top, remember we had 10 before, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And that is because the 10th stitch was used as the turn stitch. So if you want to keep the same count, you want 10 stitches in the pattern, you need to add one when you're turning, and that's what we're gonna do now. So we didn't add the stitch on the first row, but we're gonna add it now, and you do that just by yarning over and pulling through, just like when we did the chain in the beginning, and then we're turning our work. And here you can see this is now the turn chain, the turn stitch, and we're going to ignore that, and this is the first stitch that we're going to insert our hook in, and we're going under both of the strands here in the V. So insert, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over and pull through 2, just like we did on the first row. And I'm going to do that this whole row now. Yarn over once and pull up, and yarn over and pull through both of the loops. I'm going to give myself a little bit more yarn here from the yarn ball. And this is just a basic single crochet. It's I would guess the most used stitch, because this is the basics. This is the basic stitch. And now we have the stitch marker here in the first stitch. I'm gonna go in there, pull the stitch marker out. I didn't put a stitch marker here in the first stitch here, but it's okay because I know how to find it again. It can be hard to see, but I'm gonna yarn over and finish this stitch off here. So we did this turning chain on the end. If I count here now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We still have 9. We didn't lose any, and we didn't gain any. This little loop here, that is the turning stitch that we made, but it's not a real stitch. You can see that all of these are V's, and this is not a V. So this is just turning chain, and you're not going to use it when you go coming back to it. So now we have this 9 stitch row, and to turn now I'm gonna remember a turn stitch. So I'm gonna chain 1 and then turn my work. And if you want to use a piece of yarn as a stitch marker, I have a little piece of yarn here. I'm just gonna hold it in my other hand. I can fold it in like this. So it's just around this stitch you're holding in. This is if you don't have any stitch markers. You can take a piece of yarn and you just hold it there. And tighten up the lip a little bit. And you still see here, that's the turn stitch. And here's the first stitch. So a single crochet, a single crochet, a single crochet, and here you can see that the yarn is just marking this last stitch for you. It's going to be there until you pull it out, which is easy to do when you're finished, because you don't want to have just random yarn hanging out of your project. So insert into the next stitch, yarn over, pull through once, yarn over, pull through twice, or 2 loops. And this is single crochets. You can do scarves, blankets. You don't even need to know how to read patterns to make those things. All you need is the basics. You need to be able to make this foundation starting chain, and you make a starting chain how wide you want it to be, and if that's just a little bit, you can make pot holders or scarves, anything really. And all you need to know is how to go back and forth. And at this point, I'm here at the end. I'm gonna chain one for my turn, and I'm gonna turn my work and single crochet my way over to the other end of this row. If you want to do a blanket and you're not sure of how to start, my suggestion is just make a chain and make it as wide as you want, but usually around well, you're going 100 stitches plus, but around 200, depending on the yarn, of course, because a thicker yarn will give you a wider blanket because the stitches will be bigger compared to if you're using a smaller yarn. Then you might want 300 or 400 stitches. But the best way to know if you're planning on making a certain size, like for a bedspread, is to just get the ruler out and measure how long or how wide you want it, and then you make the chain from that. Here you can see the starting chain, and here you can see these loops are the first row. If I stretch it out, you can see holes. So this is the first row chain, first row, second row, third row, and the fourth row on top. But that's how you make single crochets. Yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull to both of the loops. I know that in different countries the names for the stitches are different. Single crochet is an American term, US term if you're reading patterns. I know that UK English have different names on their stitches, and I'm not very familiar with the UK patterns, so I'm not 100% sure of all the stitches names in the UK, but most videos you find on YouTube seem to be US patterns, so it's pretty easy to learn the stitch names, and it's pretty easy to understand what you're supposed to do when you're looking at videos and follow them to make the desired items. I'm only gonna show you the stitches, how to make them in this little series I'm planning to do, but I'm sure that you can figure out how to follow other patterns also when you just know the stitches. These loops that you get on top, they do have a name also. I'm gonna yarn over and pull up one, and I'm gonna turn. When you start looking at patterns that are a bit more intricate, you will find back loop only or front loop only. The back loop is the one away from you, which would be the one that you see there, and the front loop is the front loop. So you can make single crochets using only the back loop, where you put the hook into the back loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2, and in the back loop only. And that will give you a different result. It will look different compared to when you go through both loops. I'm gonna show you how it looks. I'm just gonna quickly make this all the way down here so that you can see that it looks totally different. You get this ridge on the front, and it kind of wants to just fold itself back. From this side it doesn't really look any different, but it does want to fold over, and that can have a nice effect. If you go only in back loops for a couple of rows, you get something that is very stretchy and often used to make like the ribbing or edges on sweaters around, well, the cuff around your wrist or around your waist, and also around your ankles if you're making socks or slippers that go up towards your foot or towards your leg, because it will become a stretchy, like ribbed kind of fabric. I wasn't planning on doing this, but I sidetracked here a bit, so why not? I just enjoy crocheting so much. I think it's a lot of fun. This is my stress reliever and my therapy, and I love to share my love for crocheting. I just don't have that many people around me that I can show, so I'm hoping to find some new friends to talk about yarn with, different kinds of yarn, different kinds of crochet hooks, anything really crochet related. I'm a bit of a yarn geek. So you can see I did a couple of rows like this, and it has a totally different look to it, and it's also a lot stretchier. If I pull it out, this part stretches out a lot more and is a lot more flexible, so that's why it's very suitable for the ribbing where you want it to be tight, so you don't get cold where you don't want to be cold. But that's what I wanted to show you for now. This is single crochets and single crochets in the back loop. I will make new videos to show other types of stitches, and also, of course, the front loop is also an option to go only front loop. It does look different in another way, so have fun, enjoy, try out some crocheting, and I hope to see you back here sometime soon. Like, subscribe, and I hope you have a great rest of the day. Bye bye.